what's different about the PLL and other leagues, and why did you start it?
Yeah, so sort of the chemist, not inventor approach. So we sat back and went, all right, if Major League Baseball was starting in 2018 versus the early 1900s, how would they structure it? We've learned so many war stories of leagues expanding too fast, contracting. 200 sports leagues have started since 1990 with a 1% success rate,
Oh,
and that's
wow.
being able to sustain beyond 3 years of play. So
Wow.
you have to be very proficient in the way that you are building. You have to have an efficient cost structure. You have to be able to present as if you are 20 years down the road in year one, because people are going to spend their hard-earned cash to get in a car with their family, pay for 5 tickets, pay for parking, pay for concessions, sit in the heat in the summer and watch a 90-minute match. Right? So that the what you have to provide has to be top class. It's an exceptional exercise of grit and imagination. And so through that, we said, okay, kind of, we're occupying a team sport, but from a business standpoint, I love individual sports. Love the UFC, love F1, love the WWE, and I'm talking about business. They golf, tennis, right? Having majors, getting all the best players in one market with your one network partner. There's no overlap in games competing between when OKC's playing and the Knicks are playing on a Thursday night. Like everything is there in front of you. Your sponsors, your fans, get everyone in one fell swoop. How could we build that in team sports? That's why we launched our touring model.
That's awesome.
We started with 6 teams because we felt like that was enough based on the total allotment of talented players from the previous league, and not too much such that our costs were really high and the stories were too spread thin. And then, we utilized social media, which baseball started with print and radio,
Right.
and a very local mindset from how you grew up, where you stayed, where you worked was the same. Tickets was the number one revenue stream in the early 1900s, which meant how many games you should have, which is why baseball plays 10,000 games a season.
Right.
Then as media introduced itself, and after the NFL, by the way, made the bet that Major League Baseball didn't, which was, we believe our games on television won't impact tickets. That's why Major League Baseball fell off, is they were like, nah, if we go on air, people aren't going to attend games. And football then got the broadcast deals with ABC and NBC and
Wow.
CBS. Then baseball tried to catch up, but it was too late. So we looked at, okay, the exposure you get from television will provide a validating point of view for new fans, because pro lacrosse hadn't been on NBC or ABC like we ended up getting it to. We know we're not going to get paid a lot for that in year one because pro lacrosse has never delivered a rating. So how do we figure out the economics?
Right.
And with social media, how do we build a very sticky and growing monetizable audience by having conversations with them daily? So seeing sort of the history of sports, trying to be predicative of where the future of sports is going, raising the right long-term capital, and then ultimately, I think the key ingredients for pro sports, and the same thing in film and television, is you have to have top-tier talent. You have to have the best players in the world. It's something that MLS and Don Garber still struggles with. They get Messi over, they got Beckham over, they had Thierry Henry at some point. We have great homegrown talent in the U.S., but they're mostly playing overseas. So how do you harness what sport is essentially asking the three of us to do on a Saturday afternoon? If we're not watching the best at what they do, I'm not going to watch. Spring football has struggled with that. Football is so big in America that they're able to peel off a pretty sizable audience by just showing up. But you've got to have the best in the world. And then what I'll say to wrap on the program itself, why it's so valuable and why it continues to hold up broadcast and cable, is that it's live, and the vast percentage of sports fans prefer to watch games live versus on repeat, which means it's appointment watching, which was a huge disruptor from DVR to streaming, is that the power shifted from the networks delivering cheers to 84 million people on a finale at Thursday night at 7:00 to now being like, no, I want to watch Succession when I want to fucking watch it.
Yeah,
And if it's good enough, I'm going to watch it on Sunday night, but like, I don't have to, right? So the power shifted to the consumer. Sports holds on to it because of live. Also, what's really valuable about live is advertisers want to be where fans are. And so they can count on being in properties where there are authentic integrations, quarters, timeouts, reviews, on-field signage. Streaming essentially has created a tax on advertising where like we don't have to watch commercial breaks anymore.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, so I think that's that. And then the last piece that I really enjoy about sports is that none of us know how it's going to end. And that is like the ultimate form of suspense and original programming.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. It's true.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. I mean, you look at all those different financial variables that go into like a full league. It's like it can make your head spin.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does a lot of times. That's why we have a great team. And we're constantly thinking about the next 30 days and the next 3 years, and then the next 30 years. And how do we identify areas of growth and keep this thing moving?
Hell yeah.
Have you guys
really exciting.
ventured pretty heavily into the merchandise space? Or?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that's the other thing. So we're a true single entity league. The NFL, the NBA, they're associations. So essentially the commissioner's office does two things. It cuts the national broadcast deal and a few other national sponsors and then manages the owners and makes sure like the ship keeps moving in the right direction. But the owners are operating their teams on a week-to-week basis. So we're an attractive model to venture capitalists because we own the whole thing, which means the league IP, all of our 8 teams IP, marketing rights to players, signage on site, inventory online. But the challenging part is we got to operate the whole fucking thing. So every game we're operating, we don't get to outsource it to Mark Cuban or, Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
So the exciting path is always the harder path. And so you have to have the stomach for it. You have to have the resilience and the endurance, and know that, it's going to do this.
Oh yeah.
Bit.
Yeah.
And are you doing a lot of like college recruitment so that every year you're getting the top All-Americans from the top universities? All that?
We actually have our draft this coming Tuesday. So I'm going to fly to New York on Sunday, and then we do our draft live at ESPN. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, that was a big part of our initial strategy is owning the college pipeline and the college draft and making sure we get that right. So you'll have 4 rounds and the best college players will be selected, and then they'll be playing in June with us.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of cap on the amount of teams that you guys can bring on eventually as you move forward?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that has to be carefully mined. So, you could expand too fast. You could also expand with the wrong owners. So if we were to go from 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 or 8 to 16 teams, the touring model has to shift to probably a home and away model. Because bringing 16 teams into one market and everyone playing, I don't think people have the stomach to watch 8 games over the course of a weekend, or we really don't have the air time to do it. So we're really focused right now on continuing to drive value through our 8 teams, like F1's 10 teams. And then if we were to expand teams, understanding, okay, who are the owners in those markets that own venues that can put a really great experience out, that care about lacrosse, care about investing in the players and the fans. If you find more than 8 of those, and then more than 16 or 30, like some leagues, then there's a really great value proposition on the other side of pursuing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a version of you that's playing for you guys right now? Is there a Paul out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do. We've got one of the greatest players to have played in Tom Schreiber, who was last year's MVP and world champion, and then Trevor Baptiste was the MVP before him. Zed Williams was the MVP before that. So he's exciting pro talent that is taking the game to new heights. And then we have a few really talented players coming out of college that will go 1, 2, and 3, and Brennan O'Neill, Pat Cavanaugh, and Connor Schellenberger. So incumbent on us to help them grow into the spotlight.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video.
And subscribe and hit the bell for a whole lot more to come.